Hi, this is Jordan from Recap Animation. All properties are owned by their respective companies. Please enjoy. The story begins with Atsushi, an orphan who was forced to leave the orphanage due to circumstances beyond his control. Despite the challenges that he has faced in life, he is not willing to simply give up. He was determined to stay alive, so he decided to rob the very first person he met. The first one he saw was a man on a very fast motorcycle, and the second one was a battalion of soldiers. What an unfortunate turn of events. He didn't know what to do because he didn't have anything to eat and didn't have any money. The third individual he observed was a dead body of a person floating down the river. He could have robbed someone, but instead, he rescued the man. After waking up, the man introduces himself as a suicidal maniac, Osama Dazai. Then Dazai's colleague, Doppo Kunakita, yells at Dazai from across the river. And according to Dazai's co-worker, Kunakito Doppo, the man who tried to kill himself may have attempted suicide more than once in the past. Afterward, Kunakita ends up treating Atsushi to a meal of chazook in a tea house. After finishing their meal, Atsushi thanked them and told them that after leaving the orphanage and coming to Yokohama, he had nothing to eat and nowhere to sleep and thought he'd die of starvation. When asked about the orphanage, Atsushi tells them he was kicked out. Kunakita and Dazai have a conversation about the nature of their job. Atsushi discovers that Kunakita and Dazai work for the Armed Detective Agency, an organization of individuals possessing supernatural abilities. Dazai and Kunakita explain that they are searching for a tiger that has been ravaging warehouses and livestock. Atsushi states that the tiger has been following him throughout his traveling. Then, in exchange for a substantial sum of money, Dazai offered Atsushi a bribe to play the role of bait for the tiger. To help the two agents capture it, Dazai slips Kunakita a note and takes Atsushi to a warehouse. It wasn't until Dazai was sitting on top of an abandoned warehouse that Atsushi explained how he was kicked out of the orphanage to save money because the tiger had caused the financially poor orphanage a great deal of damage. Atsushi then hears the sound of metal falling and gets scared, saying the man-eating tiger has arrived. However, Dazai tells him tigers don't show up from places like that and says that something isn't quite right. To begin with, why would the orphanage finances be so low that they would banish a child because banishing 1 or 2 mouths to feed would hardly put a dent in their deficit? They could also transfer the kids to a different orphanage. Dazai then says that Atsushi came to this city 2 weeks ago, and the tiger also appeared in this city 2 weeks ago, and he was in the Surumi area 4 days ago, and the tiger was also sighted there 4 days ago. Dazai concludes that Atsushi is the tiger, or rather, that he has a supernatural power to transform into the tiger under the moonlight. The orphanage was likely aware of who the tiger was and made the decision to expel him to protect the children. The full moon is revealed, and Atsushi transforms into a massive tiger and attacks Dazai. However, Dazai reveals his special ability, no longer human, which stops all other abilities when he touches a person. He is able to subdue Atsushi. Kunakita arrived very late at the scene with 3 other agents, so he was completely unaware of what had occurred. Dazai also gave him a note, but he immediately called for assistance. Yosano Akiko, Hidogawa Rampo, and Miyazawa Kenji are the group's other 3 members. Then everyone asks Dazai what they are going to do with Atsushi, so Dazai concluded that there was nowhere else for Atsushi to go after this, so Dazai decided to make Atsushi a member of the Armed Detective Agency. Atsushi then wakes up. Dazai then asks if he remembers anything before losing his conscience, and in surprise tells him to look at his hand, which frightens Atsushi because his hand is still in a transformed state and looks like a tiger's paw. Then Dazai loudly tells him that he will become one of them, and from this moment on, he'll be a member of the Armed Detective Agency. After Atsushi realizes that he is the man-eating tiger were-tiger, Dazai provides him with an apartment, a cell phone, clothes, and a job offer. He hesitates to take any of these things up on Dazai's generous offer. Even if he joins them, he won't be of any use to him because he cannot transform himself into a tiger through his own will. He receives a call from Dazai, who claims that there is an emergency and tells him first when he leaves his room he should make sure he closes the door and look behind, making Atsushi shocked because he sees Dazai stuck in the barrel. Atsushi frees Dazai from what seemed like a suicide attempt in a barrel and decides to look for a different job outside of the agency. Dazai offers to help him, and the pair eventually runs into Kunikata, who hurries them to a scene of an actual emergency. The three of them went to the headquarters because a bomber was reportedly holding hostages and was threatening to blow up the building. The bomber wanted to speak to their president. Dazai and Kunikata play rock, paper, scissors to determine who would be the one to distract the criminal. Kunikata loses rock, paper, scissors and attempts to negotiate with the man and tells the bomber to calm down. However, the criminal tells him he only wants to see the president. If Kunikata does anything, he'll blow this building up. Then the bomber orders him to get on all fours on the table, which makes Kunikata unable to do anything. Then Dazai, from his hiding place, tells Atsushi that this isn't good. Because of the bomber's personal grudge against the agency, he has done his research on all the members' names and faces, and if he goes, it'll only provoke him. Then Dazai slowly looks at Atsushi, making him feel chilled inside. Atsushi is forcefully given the opportunity to negotiate. Dazai also made Atsushi dress up as a newspaper boy and appeared to be making an all-out effort to dissuade the potential bomber from detonating his device by describing the things he does not have, such as a place to live or a roof over his head. He also reportedly informed the potential bomber that he has no friends or family, was expelled from the orphanage, and does not believe he has a future. With that, Atsushi distracts the man from the bomb, giving Dazai enough time to subdue the man. The man still presses the detonator, and the bomb starts counting down. Despite Atsushi's best efforts, he was unable to find anything strong enough to conceal the bomb once it exploded. Desperately, Atsushi throws himself over the bomb to try and protect everyone else. Everyone's reaction was speechless for a few seconds. The bomb does not go off. The whole scene was a setup as a test to see if Atsushi was the right kind of person to join the armed detective agency. Tanizaki Junichiro, a member of the armed detective agency, was actually the bomber, and his sister, Tanizaki Naomi, played the role of the hostage during the incident. Their president, Fukuzawa Yukichi, was just next door and not overseas, unlike what Kunikata mentioned, and went out and said that since Dazai said there was a capable young man, he had him test his mettle. Dazai then said that he recommended him for hire, but since he had been designated a major threat by the ward, they disagreed on whether they should take him in. Then Fukuzawa recalls what Dazai asked him earlier: would he hire the most gifted person in the world who appeared before him? President replied that power doesn't make a person a member of the agency. Hearing this, Dazai says that's why he recommended Atsushi. Afterward, Fukuzawa allowed Dazai to decide whether or not Atsushi would be accepted as a member of their organization. After Dazai made Atsushi realize what he stood to lose if he did not accept the job offer, which was getting kicked out of the dorm apartment, having no house, no food, no family, no friends, and that he is the wanted were-tiger with the bounty on his head, it would appear that Atsushi eventually agreed to take the offer. Tanizaki extends his apologies to Atsushi for the rude behavior he displayed during the examination that Atsushi was taking. He introduces himself as a member of the armed detective agency, along with his sister Naomi. Kunikata has asked Atsushi, who is now a member of their organization, to uphold the agency's good name now that he is a part of it. Tanizaki gets a call about a client at the agency right after Atsushi has successfully guessed the previous occupations of his senior colleagues. A potential customer walked through the door of the agency, but Dazai had already asked her to commit suicide with him as part of a couple act. On the other hand, in order to instruct him, Kunikata transfers Dazai to a separate room while everyone keeps hearing screaming coming from the room. Then the female client was asked for assistance with a request to stake out the back of the alley of her company building. Having found a suspicious group, the individuals appeared to be dressed in rags, and some of them were heard speaking in foreign language. The individuals may have been smugglers who have recently been lurking within the vicinity of the port town. Kunikata instructs Atsushi to go and take care of his operation with Tanizaki and Naomi, which, according to him, is a simple stakeout job. Later, while Atsushi is preparing the stuff for the mission, Kunikata shows him a pic of a strange, black-haired man and advises Atsushi to flee should he ever encounter a person named Akutagawa, a mafioso with a strong offensive ability from the infamous underground organization Port Mafia. At a police station somewhere, Akutagawa returns a lost bag to the police. The policemen apparently recognize him as a wanted fugitive. Still, he easily overpowers them with his ability before they can take him down. As he leaves the murder scene, the bag he left earlier explodes, killing everyone in the vicinity. On the other hand, Atsushi, Tanizaki, Naomi, and their client Higuchi head to the area in question. Still, Atsushi is nervous and says that all this talk about the vicious mafia and how he can die makes him doubt that he is cut out for this. Then they arrive at a dead end, and their charming client informs their leader, Akutagawa, that she has the targets cornered. Revealing that she is actually a member of the Port Mafia, Higuchi opens fire at the group. At the same time, Naomi shields her brother with her body. Seeing bullets penetrate through his precious sister, Tanizaki angrily activates his ability Light Snow to kill Higuchi. However, despite this, Junichiro's snow does not cause significant damage because Akutagawa suddenly appears and impales him from behind. Akutagawa then introduces himself to Atsushi and tells him he is one of the Port Mafia's dogs and Higuchi. He then coughs and slaps Higuchi, telling her that his orders were to take the were-tiger alive, and yet here she was gunning everyone down and then tells her to stand down. When Atsushi hears that they are after him, he questions their motive, so Akutagawa explains that his target has always been him, a were-tiger, and his fellow agents who are lying on the ground were just caught in the crossfire. The mafioso introduces himself to Atsushi, uses Rashomon, and strikes right beside Atsushi. He then tells him that he missed on purpose that time, and tells him he intends to take him alive, but if he continues to resist, he'll take his leg next. He then uses Rashomon to sever Atsushi's leg. Atsushi futilely attempts to gun down the mafioso until he inadvertently activates his ability and transforms into a tiger. Before becoming an all-out battle, Dazai comes to the rescue and nullifies both of their abilities with his ability. He reveals having taped Higuchi on their initial meeting and listened to the happenings since their departure. In the end, Akutagawa backs down and declares that he will soon be able to capture the were-tiger in exchange for the 7 billion bounty offered on the black market. Higuchi makes threats towards Dazai and the agency, but the man claims that he is aware of the threats posed by their organization. Akutagawa agrees with him and reveals that before Dazai joined the agency, he worked as a member of the Port Mafia. Thanks for watching. If this series is the most liked in my current production of anime recaps, I will make a part 2. Also, if you haven't yet, please subscribe and help me make more content.